It's dying in late 22. Rob Marshall leaving to go to McLaren in 23. Then the allegations of inappropriate behaviour made against him in February 2024. 3 weeks later, he was cleared of wrongdoing through an internal inquiry, and then it was dismissed following an appeal last summer. He's consistently, by the way, I must say, denied those allegations of inappropriate behaviour. Adrian Newey leaving in springtime of last year. Jonathan Wheatley at the end of the year, and Will Courtney going to McLaren as head strategist. I believe he starts next year, plus all the other engineers that you don't hear about, and the aerodynamicists behind the scenes. I come back to this, and to your point, actually, Ted, that he's never really had a driver to match Max Verstappen, but all empires crumble. We see that so many times with different teams. We saw it with Mercedes at the end of the turbo hybrid era, and Zach Brown, one of his main competitors since they've become competitive, has always been at pains to point out that he believes that Christian had lost the dressing room. Would you agree with those sentiments? And do you think it was just the weight of pressure of one thing after another that ultimately led to him perhaps losing the backing of Uvidia, who was the man we understand that was backing him up until the results really started to go against him, Martin?
Yes, I think so. I mean, they did have a string of great drivers, of course, with DC, Mark Webber, Seb Vettel, Daniel Ricciardo. But we've also seen a lot of great young drivers who are still on the grid, like Albon, Sainz, Gasly, wrecked basically because Max Verstappen is so unbelievably fast. And I think the problem Christian had is that Max became. I mean, he had to focus everything on Max, and that's hurt the team. I think to an extent in general. I think that we had a decent following there. There's lots of people like Giampiero Lambiase and Pedals, as we know him as well, and Rocky and all sorts of key people who have stayed there. It's a team of well over 1,000 people. So I think you won't know unless you're really inside the team. I don't feel able to say that he'd lost the dressing room of the team. But there's no doubt he's been under a lot of pressure this last 18 months. And we must also mention that his former partner Beverly died 8 days ago, the mother of his daughter. And that is, he's been to hell and back in the last few days, Christian. And I think we need to recognize that and remember that. But business is business, and they've decided to make a change. And, we're talking about Formula One teams that spend £300-400 million a year and represent a lot of people, represent a brand on a global basis. And for whatever reason, they've decided that Christian's not the man to lead them into the next phase, that Lauren Mekis is, and other people they'll no doubt put around him. So it's just odd at this time. It's a strange time to do it, and a strange urgency, I would say, to that. So, we don't know what's gone on behind closed doors, but I do know that Team Verstappen were not happy with him there. And does that mean Max is more likely to stay now or less likely to stay? My gut feeling is it means he's more likely to stay in the team for next year, regardless of what kind of exit clause he might have in his contract. So, it's a complex business. And I completely agree with what was said earlier on. Christian will now turn up in another team somewhere as a part owner or a team boss. I have no doubt about that. It doesn't it doesn't mean he's leaving Formula One. I'd be pretty sure.
No, and actually, it was only what was it, a month ago that we were talking about Ferrari and the
penalty regarding his collision with Liam Lawson in Zandvoort. The team said the decision to request a right of review was important for us to understand how to go racing in future, and the stewards agreed. New footage showed it was a racing incident, leading to the rescinding of penalty points. Signs was given. A unique venue with a chance of chaos, the Azerbaijan Grand Prix has become a bit of a fan favorite during its relatively short time on the Formula One calendar, with its 8 editions so far generally taking on one of two guises. There have been a few largely incident-free runs to the flag, or there have been some extremely dramatic races. Drivers appeared to play it safe for the inaugural race in Baku back in 2016, expecting to bank a good result if they stayed out of trouble based on extremely chaotic support races. When that led to little in the way of incidents, the approach changed a year later for what was perhaps the most chaotic race of the lot in 2017. There was plenty of drama in 2021, too, while last year's race also provided brilliant action courtesy of a thrilling fight for the win between Oscar Piastri and Charles Leclerc, and a last-lap collision between Carlos Sainz and Sergio Perez. Baku's extremely tight and twisty castle section, paired with an extremely long flat-out run at the end of the lap, creates a unique challenge of a high-speed street circuit with plenty of overtaking potential, while also punishing mistakes. It's race week. 5 storylines we're excited about ahead of the 2025 Azerbaijan Grand Prix, from McLaren's Constructors' Championship bid to Red Bull's form. Here are the big stories ahead of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in Baku. With the European swing of races now complete, it's time for the 2025 Formula One season to enter its final third. 16 races down, 8 still to go, and the remaining flyaway rounds kick off with a visit to Baku, which can often be a chaotic weekend. McLaren on the verge of the Constructors' Championship. So much of the focus this season has been on the battle between the two McLaren drivers, as Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris duel it out for the Drivers' Championship in what has become a 2-driver race. With both performing at such a high level, 7 wins for Piastri, 5 for Norris, and 7 1-2s. Within that, the byproduct of such impressive point scoring is McLaren have a significant lead over the chasing pack in the Constructors' Championship. So significant, in fact, that they could wrap up the title this weekend in Baku. A combined finish of first and second, or first and third, would be enough for McLaren to become champions regardless of what second-place Ferrari do, while beyond that they just have to outscore the Scuderia by 9 points. If they manage to do that, then as long as they don't lose 12 points to Mercedes, or 33 points to Red Bull, then McLaren will be champions. Should the title be secured this weekend, it would mark the earliest point in a season that it has been won, with 7 rounds still remaining after the trip to Azerbaijan. Can Red Bull repeat their Monza form? Despite standing on the verge of winning a championship, McLaren were actually beaten for the first time in 6 races at Monza, and it wasn't by their nearest title chasers. Ferrari were victorious at their home race a year ago, but this time around it was Red Bull who took the win, with the result marking a significant turnaround in fortunes at Monza over the past 12 months. From being over half a minute adrift of the race winner in 2024, Max Verstappen beat the two McLarens by over 19 seconds this time around to secure his 3rd win of the season. It was Verstappen's first win since the other Italian round in Imola, a run of 9 races. While Verstappen appears too far back in the title fight to hold any realistic ambitions of his own, he could still be a major factor if Red Bull can replicate their Monza pace at any other venues. A new floor introduced last time out delivered a step forward, but both Verstappen and Red Bull pointed to setup choices as particularly significant. Baku will provide a very different challenge and was another track that Verstappen struggled at a year ago as Red Bull's form declined, so this weekend will give us further evidence of whether Monza was a one-off due to the unique track characteristics, or if McLaren could face more regular opposition from the defending champion. Antonelli's response after Wolff's comments. Italian rookie Kimi Antonelli has enjoyed very strong support from Mercedes throughout his career so far, both during his junior years and since making